What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be doing an update on the BFG KO2 tires that we installed on the Tacoma about a year and a half ago. This video is going to be divided into 6 categories. I'm going to put them on the screen now with their time markers so you can fast forward to see what you need. I came up with these categories from going through the YouTube comments from the previous video on the KO2s, which is going to be linked in the description. In this video, we went to Costco, got them installed. There was a little bit of a hiccup. You can watch the video to figure out what that was all about. But they're on the truck now, and I've had them for quite some time. So with that said, the first category that we're gonna go into is fuel economy / on-road performance. Now, I only had the stock tires on this truck for a few hundred miles, so I can't speak for them too much, but from the experience that I did have, I didn't notice much of a fuel economy difference. A lot of you guys have been asking that. And it's hard for me to give you exact numbers because I don't drive this thing super easy. I get anywhere from 14 miles per gallon in the city to 18 on the highway or so. I'm sure you could do better if you like to get good fuel economy, but here in Texas, fuel's so cheap and I don't really like putting in the effort to try to get perfect fuel economy with this truck because as we probably already know, the Tacoma doesn't do so great for fuel economy. So with that said, if you guys are looking for these tires, there's not a big fuel economy difference that I've noticed. Next thing is on-road performance. There is really no big difference. In the rain, the truck is very slidey in the back, which is pretty typical for a pickup truck. And there's not a lot of grip, but it's not much different, if any, from the stock ones as well. So no real on-road performance issues or benefits. While we're on the topic of on-road performance, it's time to talk about off-road performance. If you guys haven't already seen, I'm gonna throw a clip on the screen of the stock tires that came with this truck, and those were pretty pathetic. Not only did they not look that good, but the off-road performance was only okay. As you can see from my other videos, as well as the way the truck is now, we do sometimes take this truck off-roading. Nothing too crazy, but it's still pretty fun, and these tires have never given me any issues. I think I've only gotten the truck stuck once, and I had somebody pull me out, but I didn't even try to deflate the tires. I didn't feel like it. There was already somebody right behind me and it was super easy to have them pull me out. But I bet if I did deflate the tires a little bit and mess with the crawl control controls, I could have gotten the car out without a tow. So with that said, I've had 0 issues with these tires and I've been overall super happy with them. Not only do they look cool, but they also perform really well off-road as well. If I had to give these tires one big fault from the stocks, it would have to be tread wear. Now, I am super aggressive on these tires and I'm not really trying to make them last super long, but they have about half tread life after 12,000 miles. So it's not terrible. These tires still have a little bit more left in them, but they're not gonna last as long as stocks, and that's one thing that you have to know before you buy them. And if it's not a concern for you, then great, but these tires have about 12,000 miles on them. I'd be surprised if I could get about 20,000 miles out of them. So they don't last super long, but again, that's not why you get these tires. So for those of y'all who did ask, there's about half of tread left on these tires, maybe a little bit more after 12,000 miles. Now, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I see a car roll down the road and it has some beefy off-road tires and all I could hear is the sound from the tires on the road, I cringe a little bit, and that's one thing that I love about these tires. I would say the road noise from these tires is about the same as the stock ones, which I can really appreciate when you're on long drives, going to these off-road parks, or just on long drives in general. Now, as for the ride on these tires, I was running 40 PSI when I originally released that video, which was too much, and I knew it at the time as well, but I was willing to try it out. Now I've deflated it to about 30 PSI. I like to stay on or around 30 PSI with this truck, and that seems to be perfect. The ride isn't too rough. The Tacoma, at least the TRD Pro, has a pretty rough ride compared to the Raptor, but that definitely helped the ride. Now they're at about 25 PSI because I was off-roading, so they look a little bit flatter than normal. But I'd say 30 PSI is the sweet spot for these tires. In my install video of these tires, I got a lot of questions about fitment issues and if these tires would fit on their truck. This is a 265/75 R16 tire all around, and there is no fitment issues on this car. With that said, the TRD Pro comes with a 1-inch lift in the front, so there is going to be a little bit of room. Now, no promises, but from what I've read online, this tire fits on all trim levels of the Tacoma, so you won't have any rubbing issues. There's definitely no rubbing issues on this truck. So yeah, I'd say a 265/75 R16 tire will be okay for you guys. Now I think you are able to get away with a little bit bigger tire. I've gotten comments on my video that I could have gone a little bit bigger. I didn't want to go too much bigger from the stock tire just because I didn't want there to be any risk of rubbing. I didn't want to have to cut anything. I wanted to keep the truck as stock as possible in that regard. So let me throw a clip in of how much clearance this tire has from the wheel well and the fenders. So this is full lock all the way right, and you can see there's still about an inch of gap in between there. There was a little bit less obviously when the tire had a bit more tread, but there's still no rubbing issues there. No rubbing issues inside. And then if we look over here, there's still a nice gap of clearance inside here. So maybe you guys can see why I went with this tire. There's still a little bit of room left, but it's pretty darn close to filling the wheel well up enough. And so with all that in consideration, the 265/75 tire should fit on your guys' trucks. So do your research online. It only took me a few minutes. Look up BFG KO2 tires on a Tacoma, and you'll find people with other trims with their size tires, and they'll let you know if they had to do any trimming or if they didn't have any rubbing issues. Now let's move on to the last portion of this video, and that's a little bit of a story time from the Costco dealership that installed these tires. So when I was looking to find tires, I wanted to find a place that had them for a good price. I obviously didn't want to pay a few $100s more than I needed to, and Costco had the best price on these tires at the time. So what I did is I placed an online order, and when these showed up, they gave me a call. So then I left to go to my local Costco to have them install the tires. When I got there, they said that the tires were over 3% bigger than your stocks, which meant that they were not allowed to install them on the truck. Although this was a bit annoying, we were able to get around the issue by taking the truck home, getting it lifted up, pulling the original wheels and tires off the truck, and then loading them in the Raptor bed and going back to Costco and having them install the tires. Another issue was they left the wheels dirty after, and it looked like there was a bunch of scratches on them. Once I took a little bit of detail spray to the wheels, it came off right away. There was absolutely no scratching anywhere on the wheels, so I was really happy with that, obviously. For those of y'all that have these wheels, you know they scratch super easily, and if you get somebody who doesn't care or doesn't know exactly what they're doing, you can get these wheels to scratch, so just be mindful of that when you take it to whatever shop it goes to. Now again, if they're bigger than 3%, Costco, at least my local Costco, wouldn't install them, so make sure you get that clarified before so you don't have to do a couple trips back and forth. Now I mainly went over this for those of y'all complaining why I went to Costco. The main reason was they had the cheapest tire price, and so it was worth the hassle for me, but if it's not for you guys, find somewhere that won't have any complaints about installing a bigger tire. Another issue with the tire being bigger is the speedometer was a bit off. It's about 3-ish miles an hour, 3, 4, 5, depending upon how fast you're going, off, which for me isn't an issue. I have a radar detector up top, and that has my GPS speed on it, so I just go off that instead of my speedometer. But your speedo will show a few miles an hour slower than you're actually going. For you guys who want the tires to stick out a bit further past the stocks, these ones do just a tad, but not enough, in my opinion, for somebody who really likes the tires to be sticking out and likes that stance. They look good, and they stick out, I mean, just a little bit past, but I would have liked them to stick out a little bit more. I mentioned this in my previous video. If you do want them to be a little bit fatter, go with a wider tire, but make sure you get something that's still within reason, because you can't put too wide of a tire on these stock wheels. Another option that you have for making the stance a little bit bigger is putting on some spacers. I wanted to steer clear of spacers. Personally, I don't love them, and this stance was good enough for me to the point where I didn't want to deal with the hassle of having to install them. And to end off the video, I wanted to show you guys the new tire, the KO2 versus the stock. Now in this shot, the stock actually looks a bit bigger than the KO2, but that's not the case. I'll show you guys a clip, at least originally from the two tires side by side. So as you can see, there is a difference in size, and the KO2 seems to be a little bit bigger. Hopefully you can see the difference in tread. This is a bit more street tire looking, where this is clearly more off-road, and it gives the truck a much better look. And then for those of y'all concerned, these white letters do still look white as long as you use the proper cleaner on them. It's just obviously pretty muddy from when we took the truck out yesterday. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you have any more questions, leave them in the comment section of this video and I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. If you liked this video, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike. Thanks for watching. Peace.